India has strongly condemned the recent airstrikes carried out by Pakistan in Afghanistan, which reportedly caused several civilian casualties and damage to civilian infrastructure. The Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson Randhir Jaiswal said the strikes amounted to another act of aggression by the Pakistani establishment and reflected hostility towards the idea of a sovereign Afghanistan. India also reaffirmed its position that Afghanistan's sovereignty and territorial integrity must be fully respected. The remarks came after the Afghan Taliban government accused Pakistan of carrying out airstrikes in Kabul and other parts of eastern Afghanistan, claiming that at least 6 civilians were killed and 15 others injured. Hours later, Kabul said its air force responded by targeting military installations near Islamabad and in northwestern Pakistan. According to AP, Pakistan denied targeting civilians, stating that its operations focus on Pakistani Taliban militants and their support networks. Earlier, India had slammed Pakistani airstrikes in Afghan territory during a meeting of the United Nations Security Council on Afghanistan. India condemned the strikes as violations of international law, the UN Charter, and state sovereignty, noting the civilian casualties, many women and children, during the holy month of Ramadan.
The Secretary General's report also expresses deep concern at civilian casualties caused by cross-border armed violence. We reiterate and support the Secretary General's call urging compliance with obligations under international law, including international humanitarian law, and ensuring protection of civilians. India strongly condemns the airstrikes on Afghan territory, which are flagrant violations of international law and the UN Charter and the principle of state sovereignty. It's hypocritical to espouse high principles of international law and Islamic solidarity on the one hand, while mercilessly carrying out airstrikes during the holy month of Ramadan that have killed 185 innocent civilians as of 6th March, around 55% of whom are women and children, and displaced over 100,000 according to the UNAMA on the other. We also reiterate our grave concern on the practice of trade and transit terrorism by denial of passage for trade and the cynical closure of access for a landlocked country. UN declarations on LLDCs sound hollow in the face of such actions. The trade and transit vulnerabilities of LLDCs should not be weaponized. This is a violation of WTO norms and of the UN Charter and international law. While we condemn these acts, we reaffirm our support for the territorial integrity, sovereignty, and independence of Afghanistan. Madam President, terrorism remains a global scourge afflicting humanity, and only coordinated efforts of the international community would ensure that ISIL and Al-Qaeda and their affiliates, including the Lashkar-e-Taiba and the Jaish-e-Mohammed, and the proxies of LET such as the Resistance Front, along with those who facilitate their operations, no longer indulge in cross-border terrorism. Madam President, well over 4 years have passed since the political reality of Afghanistan has changed. India reiterates the importance of incentivizing positive actions. In this context, the current UN sanctions regime related to Afghanistan must take into account contemporary realities. We call on the United Nations and the international community to shun this business-as-usual approach and adopt nimble policy instruments that bring sustainable benefits for the Afghan people who have endured suffering for so long. India reiterates its commitment to strengthen our engagement with all stakeholders in bilateral, regional, and multilateral formats. India will always stand for the priorities and aspirations of Afghan society and will always support the people of Afghanistan. I thank you, Madam President.